ॐ भूर्भुवः स्वः तत्सवितुर्वरेण्यं भर्गो देवस्य धीमहि धियो यो नः प्रचोदयात्. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaskar, my dear friends. This is video number 26 on Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna Parmahamsa. This video starts with chapter number 25, Advice to Pandit Shashadhar, Monday, June 30, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was in his room, sitting on a mat spread on the floor. Pandit Shashadhar and a few devotees were with him on the mat, and the rest sat on the bare floor. Surendra, Baburam, M. Harish, Latu, Hazra and others were present. It was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Sri Ramakrishna had met Pandit Shashadhar 6 days before in Calcutta, and now the Pandit had come to Dakshineshwar to visit the master. Bhudhar Chattopadhyay and his elder brother, the Pandit's hosts, were with him. Nature of Brahma. The Pandit was a follower of the path of Jnana. The master was explaining this path to him. He said, Nitya and Leela are the two aspects of one and the same reality. He who is the indivisible Satyachit Ananda has assumed different forms for the sake of his Leela. As he described the nature of the ultimate reality, the master every now and then became unconscious in samadhi. While he talked, he was intoxicated with spiritual fervor. He said to the Pandit, My dear sir, Brahma is immutable in and immovable like Mount Sumeru, but he who is immovable can also move. Glories of Kali. The master was in ecstasy. He began to sing in his melodious voice. Who is there that can understand what Mother Kali is? Even the six darshanas are powerless to reveal her. He went on. Is Mother merely a simple woman, born as others are born, only by chanting her holy name? Does Shiva survive the deadly poison? See, it is who creates the worlds. See who preserves and destroys. With a mere wink of her wondrous eyes, she holds the universe in her palm. Seeking a shelter at her feet, the gods themselves feel safe. And Mahadeva, god of gods, lies prostrate underneath her feet. Again he sang, Is mother only Shiva's wife? To her must needs bow down, the all-destroying king of death. Naked she roams about the world, slaying her demon foes, or stands erect on Shiva's breast, her feet upon her husband's form. What a strange wife she makes! My mother's play, declares Prasad, shatters all rules and laws. Strive hard for purity, O mind, and understand my mother's ways. And again, I drink no ordinary wine, but wine of everlasting bliss. As I repeat my Mother Kali's name, it is intoxicates my it so intoxicates my mind that people take me to be drunk. And again, can everyone have the vision of Shama? Is Kali's treasure for everyone. Oh, what a pity! My foolish mind will not see what is true. Even with all his penances, rarely does Shiva himself behold the mind bewitching sight of Mother Shama's crimson fit. To him who meditates on her, the riches of heaven are poor indeed. If Shama casts her glance on him, he swims in eternal bliss. The Prince of Yogis, the King of the Gods, meditate on her feet in vain, yet worthless Kamalkanta yearns for the mother's blessed feet. The master's ecstatic mood gracefully relaxed. He stopped singing and sat in silence. After a while, he got up and sat on the small couch. Pandit Sasadhar was charmed with his singing. Very humbly, he said to Sri Ramakrishna, "Are you going to sing any more?" A little later, the master sang again. High in the heaven of the mother's feet, my mind was soaring like a kite. When came at when came a blast of sin's rough wind that drove it swiftly towards the earth. Then he sang, "Once for all, this time I have thoroughly understood. From one who knows it well, I have learned the secret of bhava. A man has come to me from a country where there is no night, and now I cannot distinguish day from night any longer. Rituals and devotions have all grown profitless for me. My sleep is broken. How can I slumber any more? For now I am wide awake in the sleepiness of yoga. O Divine Mother, made one with thee in yoga sleep at last. My slumber I have lulled asleep for evermore. I bow my head, says Prasad, before desire and liberation. Knowing the secret that Kali is one with the highest Brahma, I have discarded once for all both righteousness and sin. Sri Ramakrishna continued, I have surrendered my soul at the fearless feet of the Mother. Am I afraid of death any more? Unto the tuft of hair on my head is tied the almighty mantra, Mother Kali's name. My body I have sold in the marketplace of the world, and with it have bought Sri Durga's name. As Sri Ramakrishna sang the line, and with it have bought Sri Durga's name, the tears flowed from Pandit Sasadhar's eyes. The master went on with the song. Deep within my heart, I have planted the name of Kali, the wish fulfilling tree of heaven. When Yama, king of death, appears, to him I shall open my heart and show it growing there. I have cast out from me my six unflagging foes. Ready am I to sail life's sea, crying to Durga victory. Again he sang, dwell, O mind, within yourself, and no other's home. If you but seek there, you will find all you are searching for. And again, though I am never loath to grant salvation, I hesitate indeed to grant pure love. Whoever wins pure love surpasses all. He is adored by man. He triumphs over the three worlds. Mere study of scriptures is futile. The Pandit had studied the Vedas and the other scriptures. He loved to discuss philosophy. The master, seated on the couch, cast his benign look on the Pandit and gave him counsel through parables. Master to the Pandit. There are many scriptures like the Vedas, but one cannot realize God without austerity and spiritual discipline. God cannot be found in the sixth systems, the Vedas or the Tantra. But one should learn the contents of the scriptures and then act according to their injunctions. A man lost a letter. He could not remember where he had left it. He began to search for it with a lamp. After two or three people had searched, the letter was at last found. The message in the letter was, "Please send us 5 seers of sandesh and a piece of wearing cloth." The man read it and then threw the letter away. There was no further need of it. Now all he had to do was to buy the 5 seers of sandesh and the piece of cloth. Reading, hearing, and seeing. Better than reading is hearing, and better than hearing is seeing. One understands the scriptures better by hearing them from the lips of the Guru or of a holy man. Then one doesn't have to think about their non essential part. Hanuman said, "Brother, I do not know much about the face of the moon or the position of the stars. I just contemplate Rama. But seeing is far better than hearing. Then all doubts disappear. It is true that many things are recorded in the scriptures, but all these are useless without the direct realization of God, without devotion to His lotus feet, without purity of heart. The almanac forecasts the rainfall of the year, but not a drop of water will you get by squeezing the almanac. No, not even one drop. How long should one reason about the text of the scriptures? So long as one does not have direct realization of God. How long does the bee buzz about? As long as it is not sitting on a flower, no sooner does it light on a flower and begin to sip honey than it keeps quiet. But you must remember another thing. One may talk even after the realization of God, but then one talks only of God and of divine bliss. It is like a drunkard's crime. Victory to the Divine Mother. He can hardly say anything else on account of his drunkenness. You can notice too that a bee makes an indistinct humming sound after having sipped the honey from a flower. The nature of Gyanis and Vigyanis. The Gyani reasons about the world through the process of niti niti. Not this, not this. Reasoning in this way, he at last comes to a state of bliss, and that it is Brahma. What is the nature of a Jnani? He behaves according to scriptural injunctions. Once I was taken to Chanak and saw some sadhus there. Several of them were sieving or laugh. At the sight of us, they threw aside their sieving. They sat straight, crossing their legs, and conversed with us or laugh. But Gyanis will not talk about spiritual things without being asked. They will inquire at first about such things as your health and your family. But the nature of the Vijnani is different. He is unconcerned about anything. Perhaps he carries his wearing cloth loose under his arm like a child, or perhaps the cloth has dropped from his body altogether. The man who knows that God exists is called a jnani. A jnani is like one who knows beyond a doubt that a log of wood contains fire. But a vijnani is he who lights the log, cooks over the fire, and is nourished by the food. The eight fetters have fallen from the vijnani. He may keep merely the appearance of lust, anger, and the rest. Pandit. The knots of his heart are cut asunder, all his doubts are destroyed. Master, yes, once a ship sailed into the ocean. Suddenly its iron joints, nails, and screws fell out. The ship was passing a magnetic hill, and so all its iron was loosened. I used to go to Krishna Kishore's house. Once, when I was there, he said to me, "Why do you chew betel, betel leaf?" I said, "It is my sweet pleasure. I shall chew betel leaf, look at my face in the mirror, and dance naked among 1,000 girls." Krishna Kishore's wife scolded him and said, "What have you said to Ramakrishna? You don't know how to talk to people." In this state, passions like lust and anger are burnt up, though nothing happens to the physical body. It looks just like any other body, but the inside is all hollow and pure. A devotee. Does the body remain even after the realization of God? Master. The body survives with some so that they may work out their prarabdha karma or work for the welfare of others. By bathing in the Ganges, a man gets rid of his sin and attains liberation. But if he happens to be blind, he doesn't get rid of his blindness. Of course, he escapes future births, which would otherwise be necessary for reaping the results of his past sinful karma. His present body remains alive as long as its momentum is not exhausted. But future births are no longer possible. The wheel moves as long as the impulse that has set it in motion lasts. Then it comes to a stop. In the case of such a person, passions like lust and anger are burnt up. Only the body remains alive to perform a few actions. Pandit. That is called sanskara. The nature of Gyanis and Vijnanis. Master. The Vijnani always sees God. That's why he is so indifferent about the world. He sees God even with his eyes open. Sometimes he comes down to the Leela from the Nitya, and sometimes he goes up to the Nitya from the Leela. Pandit, I don't understand that. Master, the Jnani reasons about the world through the process of Neti Neti and at last reaches the eternal and indivisible Sat Chitananda. He reasons in this manner. Brahma is not the living beings. It is neither the universe nor the 24 cosmic principle. As a result of such reasoning, he attains the absolute. Then he realizes that it is the absolute that has become all this the universe, its living beings, and the 24 cosmic principles. Milk sets into curd, and the curd is churned into butter. After extracting the butter, one realizes that butter is not essentially different from buttermilk, and buttermilk not essentially different from butter. The bark of a tree goes with the pith, and the pith goes with the bark. Pandit smiling to Bhudhar. Did you understand that? It is very difficult. All embracing realization of the Vijnani. Master, if there is butter, there must be buttermilk also. If you think of butter, you must also think of buttermilk along with it. For there cannot be any butter without buttermilk. Just so, if you accept the Nitya, you must also accept the Leela. It is the process of negation and affirmation. You realize the Nitya by negating the Leela. Then you affirm the Leela, seeing in it the manifestation of the Nitya. One attains this state after realizing reality in both aspects, personal and impersonal. The personal is the embodiment of Chit consciousness, and the impersonal is the indivisible Satchit Ananda. Brahma alone has become everything. Therefore, to be Vijnani, this world is a mansion of mirth, but to the Jnani, it is a framework of illusion. Ram Prasad described the world as a framework of illusion. Another man said to him by way of retort, this very world is a mansion of mirth. Here I can eat, here drink and make merry. O physician, you are a fool. You see only the surface of things. Janka's might was unsurpassed. What did he lack of the world or the spirit? Holding to one as well as the other, he drank his milk from a brimming cup. The Vijnani enjoys the bliss of God in a richer way. Some have heard of milk, some have seen it, and some have drunk it. The Vijnani has drunk milk, enjoyed it, and been nourished by it. The master remained silent a few moments and then asked Pandit Shashadhar to have a smoke. The Pandit went to the southeast veranda to smoke. Soon he came back to the room and sat on the floor with the devotees. Seated on the small couch, the master continued the conversation. Master to the Pandit, let me tell you something. There are three kinds of ananda: joy, the joy of worldly enjoyment, and the joy of worship, and the joy of Brahma. The joy of worldly enjoyment is the joy of woman and gold, which people always enjoy. The joy of worship one enjoys while chanting the name and glories of God, and the joy of Brahma is the joy of God vision. After experiencing the joy of God vision, the rishis of olden times went beyond all rules and conventions. Three states of God consciousness. Chaitanya Deva used to experience three spiritual states: the inmost, the semi conscious, and the conscious. In the inmost states, He would see God and go into Samadhi. He would be in the state of Jada Samadhi. In the semi-conscious state, he would be partially conscious of the outer world. In the conscious state, he would sing the name and glories of God, Hajra, to the Pandit. So your doubts are now solved. Samadhi described. Master to the Pandit. What is Samadhi? It is the complete merging of the mind in God consciousness. The Jnani experiences Jada Samadhi in which no trace of I is left. The Samadhi attained through the path of Bhakti is called Chetana Samadhi. In this Samadhi, there remains the consciousness of the I of the servant and master relationship, of the lover and beloved relationship, of the enjoyer and food relationship. God is the master, the devotee is the servant, God is the beloved, the devotee is the lover, God is the food and the devotee is the enjoyer. I do not want to be sugar, I want to eat it. Pandit, what will happen if God dissolve all of the I, if he changes the enjoyer himself into sugar? Master smiling, come, come, tell me what is in your mind, but don't the scriptures mention Narada? Sanka, Sanatana, Sananda and Sant Kumara. Pandit, yes sir, they do. Master, though they were Jnanis, yet they kept the eye of the Bhagata. Have not you read the Bhagavata? Pandit, I have read only part of it, not the whole. Master, pray to God, He is full of compassion. Will He not listen to the words of His devotees? He is the Kalpatru. You will get whatever you desire from him. Pandit, I have thought deeply about these things before, but now I understand. Master, God keeps a little of I in his devotee even after giving him the knowledge of Brahma. That I is the I of the devotee, the I of the Jnani. Though through that I, the devotee, enjoys the infinite play of God. The pestle was almost worn out with rubbing, only a little was left that fell into underbrush and brought about the destruction of the lunar race, the race of the Yadus. The Vijnani retains the eye of the devotee, the eye of the Jnani, in order to taste the bliss of God and teach people. The rishis of old had timid natures. They were easily frightened. Do you know their attitude? It was this: let me somehow get my own salvation. Who cares for others? A hollow piece of driftwood somehow manage to float, but it sinks if even a bird sit on it. But Narada and sages of his kind are like a huge log that not only can float across the other shore but can carry many animals and other creatures as well. A steamship itself crosses the ocean and also carries people across. The Vijnani is fearless and joyous. Teachers like Narada belong to the class of the Vijnani. They were much more courageous than the other rishis. They are like an expert Strancha player. You must have noticed how he shouts as he throws the dice. What do I want? 6. No, 5. Here is 5. And every time he throws the dice, he gets the number he wants. He is such a clever player, and while playing, he even twirls his moustaches. A mere Gyani trembles with fear. He is like an amateur strancha player. He is anxious to move his pieces somehow to the safety zone where they won't be overtaken by his opponent. But a Vijnani is not afraid of anything. He has realized both aspects of God, personal and impersonal. He has talked with God. He has enjoyed the bliss of God. It is a joy to merge the mind in the indivisible Brahma through contemplation, and it is also a joy to keep the mind on the Leela, the relative, without dissolving it in the absolute. A mere Jnani is a monotonous person. He always analyzes, saying, "It is not this, not this. The world is like a dream. But I have raised both my hands, therefore I accept everything." Parable of the Weaver Woman. Listen to a story. Once a woman went to see her weaver friend. The weaver, who had been spinning different kinds of silk thread, was very happy to see her friend and said to her friend, "I can't tell you how happy I am to see you. Let me get you some refreshments." She left the room. The woman looked at the threads of different colors and was tempted. She hid a bundle of thread under one arm. The weaver returned presently with the refreshments and began to feed her guest with great enthusiasm. But looking at the thread, she realized that her friend had taken a bundle, hitting upon a plan to get it back. She said, "Friend, it is so long since I have seen you. This is a day of great joy for me. I feel very much like asking you to dance with me. Since I have seen you, this is a day of great joy for me. I feel very much like asking you to dance with me." The friend said, "Sister, I am feeling very happy too." So the two friends began to dance together. When the weaver saw that her friend danced without raising her hands, she said, "Friend, let us dance with both hands raised. This is a day of great joy." But the guest pressed one arm to her side and danced, raising only the other. The weaver said, "How is this, friend? Why should you dance with only one hand raised? Dance with me, raising both hands. Look at me. See how I dance with both hands raised." But the guest still pressed one arm to her side. She danced with the other hand raised and said with a smile, "This is all I know of dancing." The master continued, "I don't press my arm to my side. Both my hands are free. I am not afraid of anything. I accept both the Nitya and the Leela, both the absolute and the relative. The two kinds of ego." I said to Keshav Sen that he would not be able to realize God without renouncing the ego. He said, Sir, in that case, I should not be able to keep my organization together. Thereupon I said to him, I am asking you to give up the unripe ego, the wicked ego. But there is no harm in the ripe ego, the child ego, the servant ego, the ego of knowledge, the worldly man's ego, the ignorant ego. The unripe ego is like a thick stick. It divides as it were the water of the ocean of Satya Chitti Ananda. But the servant ego, the child ego, the ego of knowledge is like a line on the water. One clearly sees that there is only one expanse of water. The dividing line makes it appear that the water has two parts, but one clearly sees that in reality there is only one expanse of water. Shankaracharya kept the ego of knowledge in order to teach people. God keeps in many people the ego of a jnani or the ego of a bhakta, even after they have attained Brahmajnana. Hanuman, after realizing God in both his personal and his impersonal aspect, cherished towards God the attitude of a servant, a devotee. He said to Rama, O Rama, sometimes I think that you are the whole and I am a part of you. Sometimes I think that you are the master and I am your servant. And sometimes, Rama, when I contemplate the Absolute, I see that I am you and you are I. Yasoda became grief stricken at being separated from Krishna and called on Radha. Radha saw Yasoda's suffering and revealed herself to her as the divine Shakti, which was her real nature. She said to Yashoda, Krishna is Chidatma, absolute consciousness, and I am Chitta Shakti, the primal power. Ask a boon of me. Yasoda said, I don't want Brahmajnana. Please grant me only this, that I may see the form of Gopala in my meditation, that I may always have the company of Krishna's devotees, that I may always serve the devotees of God, that I may always chant God's name and glories. Once the gopis felt a great desire to see the forms of the Lord. So Krishna asked them to dive into the water of the Jamuna. No sooner did they dive into the water than they all arrived at Vaikuntha. There they saw the form of the Lord endowed with his six celestial splendors. But they did not like it. They said to Krishna, we want to see Gopala and serve him. Please grant us that boon alone. We do not want anything else. Before his departure for Mathura, Krishna wanted to give the knowledge of Brahma to the gopis. He said to them, I dwell both inside and outside all beings. Why should you see only one form of mine? The gopis cried in chorus, O Krishna, do you want to go away from us? Is that, is that why you are instructing us in Brahmajnana? Do you know the attitude of the gopis? It is this, we are Radha's and Radha is ours. A devotee Does this I of the devotee never disappear altogether? Master, yes, it disappears at times. Then one attains the knowledge of Brahma and goes into Samadhi. I too lose it, but not for all the time. In the musical scale, there are seven notes Sa, Re, Ga, Ma, Pa, Tha, and Ni. But one cannot keep one's voice on Ni a long time. One must bring it down again to the lower notes. I pray to the Divine Mother. Mother, do not give me Brahmagyana. Formerly, believers in God with form used to visit me a great deal. Then the modern Brahmagyanis began to arrive. During that period, I used to remain unconscious in Samadhi most of the time. Whenever I regained consciousness, I would say to the Divine Mother, O Mother, please don't give me Brahm Jnana. God listens to our prayer. Pandit, does God listen to our prayers? Master, God is the Kalpatru, the wish fulfilling tree. You will certainly get whatever you ask of Him. But you must pray standing near the Kalpatru. Only then will your prayer be fulfilled. But you must remember another thing. God knows our inner feeling. A man gets the fulfillment of the desire he cherishes while practicing sadhana. As long as one thinks, so one receives. A magician was showing his tricks before a king. Now and then he exclaimed, come confusion, come delusion, O king, give me money, give me clothes. Suddenly his tongue turned upward and clove to the root of his mouth. He experienced kumbhaka. He could utter neither word nor sound and became motionless. People thought he was dead. They built a vault of bricks and buried him there in that posture. After 1,000 years, someone dug into the vault. Inside it, people found a man seated in samadhi. They took him for a holy man and worshipped him. When they shook him, his tongue was loosened and regained its normal position. The magician became conscious of the outer world and cried as he had 1,000 years before, come confusion, come delusion. O king, give me money, give me clothes. I used to weep, praying to the Divine Mother, O Mother, destroy with thy thunderbolt my inclination to reason. Pandit, then you too had an inclination to reason. Master, yes, once. Pandit, then please assure us that we shall get rid of that inclination too. How did you get rid of yours, Master? Oh, somehow or other. Sri Ramakrishna was silent a while. Then he went on with his conversation. Master, God is the Kalpatru. One should pray standing near it. Then one will get whatever one desires. How many things God has created. Infinite is His universe. But what need have I to know about His infinite splendors? If I must know these, let me first realize Him. Then God Himself will tell me all about them. What need have I to know how many houses and how many government securities Jadoo Malik possesses? All that I need is somehow to converse with Jadoo Malik. I may succeed in seeing him by jumping over a ditch or through a petition or after being pushed about by his gatekeeper. Once I get a chance to talk to him, then he himself will tell me all about his possessions if I ask him. If one becomes acquainted with the master, then one is respected by his officers too. All laugh. There are some who do not care to know the splendors of God. What do I care about knowing how many gallons of wine there are in the tavern? One bottle is enough for me. Why should I desire the knowledge of God's splendors? I am intoxicated with the little wine I have swallowed. Both Bhakti Yoga and Jnana Yoga are paths by which you can realize God. Whatever path you may follow, you will certainly realize Him. The path of Bhakti is an easy one. The path of knowledge and discrimination is very difficult. Why should one reason so much to know which path is the best? I talked about this with Vijay for many days. Once I told him about a man who used to pray, "Oh God, reveal to me who and what you are." The path of knowledge and discrimination is difficult indeed. Parvati, the Divine Mother, revealed her various forms to her father and said, "Father, if you want Brahmajnana, then live in the company of holy men." Brahma cannot be described in words. It is said in the Rama Gita that Brahma has only been indirectly hinted at by the scriptures. When one speaks about the cowherd village on the Ganges, one indirectly states that the village is situated on the bank of the Ganges. Why should not a man be able to realize the formless Brahma? But it is extremely difficult. He cannot if he has even the slightest trace of worldliness. He can be directly aware of Brahma in his inmost consciousness only when he renounces all sense objects, form, taste, smell, touch, and sound, and only when his mind completely stops functioning. And then too, he knows only this much of Brahma, that it exists. Quoting from an Upanishad, the Pandit said, "It is to be experienced only as existence." Master, in order to realize God, a devotee should make use of particular attitude, the attitude of a hero or a friend or a handmaid or a child. Mani Malik. Only then can one feel attached to God, Master. For many days I cherished the feeling that I was a companion of the Divine Mother. I used to say, "I am the handmaid of Brahmamai, the blissful mother." O companions of the Divine Mother, make me the Mother's handmaid. I shall go about proudly saying I am Brahma's handmaid. Different classes of perfect souls. Some souls realize God without practicing any spiritual discipline. They are called Nitya Siddha, eternally perfect. Those who have realized God through austerity, japa, and the like are called Sadhana Siddha, perfect through spiritual discipline. Again, there are those called Kripa Siddha, perfect through divine grace. These last may be compared to a room kept dark 1,000 years, which becomes light the moment a lamp is brought in. There is also a class of devotees, the Hat Siddha, that is to say, those who have suddenly attained God vision. Their case is like that of a poor boy who has suddenly found favor with a rich man. The rich man marries his daughter to the boy and along with her gives him land, house, carriage, servants and so forth. There is still another class of devotees, the Swapna Siddha, who have had the vision of God in a dream. Surendra smiling. Let us go to sleep then. We shall wake and find ourselves babus, aristocrats. Master tenderly. You are already a babu. When the letter A is joined to the letter Ka becomes Ka. It is futile to add another A. If you add it, you will still have the same Ka or laugh. Description of the Nitya Siddha. The Nitya Siddha is in a class apart. He is like Ernie wood. A little rubbing produces fire. You can get fire from it even without rubbing. The Nitya Siddha realizes God by practicing slight spiritual discipline and sometimes without practicing any at all. But he does practice spiritual discipline after realizing God. He is like the God or pumpkin wine, first fruit, then flower. The Pandit smiled at this illustration. Master, there is the instance of Prahlada. He was a Nityasiddha. While writing the letter Ka, he shed a stream of tears. The master was pleased with the Pandit's humility. He praised him to the devotees. Master, he has such a nice nature. You find no difficulty in driving a nail into a mud wall, but its point breaks if you try to drive it against a stone, and still it will not pierce it. There are people whose spiritual consciousness is not at all awakened, even though they hear about God a thousand times. They are like a crocodile on whose hide you cannot make any impression with a sword. Pandit. But one can hurt a crocodile by throwing a spear into its belly. All laugh. Master smiling. What good is there in reading a whole lot of scriptures? What good is there in the study of philosophy? What is the use of talking big? In order to learn archery, one should first aim at a banana tree, then at a reed, then at a wick, and last at a flying bird. At the beginning, one should concentrate on God with form. Then there are devotees who are beyond the three gunas. They are eternally devoted to God, like Narada. These devotees behold Krishna as Chinmaya, all spirit, his abode as Chinmaya, his devotee as Chinmaya. To them, God is eternal, his abode is eternal, his devotee is eternal. Those who reason and speculate following the process of Niti Niti do not accept the incarnation of God. Hazra says well that divine incarnation is only for the bhakta and not for the jnani, because the jnani is quite contented with his ideal I am he. Sri Ramakrishna and the devotees remained silent a while. The Pandit resumed the conversation. Pandit, sir, how does one get rid of callousness? Laughter makes me think of muscles and nerves. Grief makes me think of the nervous system. Master smiling. That is why Narayan Shastri used to say the harmful effect of the study of the scriptures is that it encourages reasoning and arguing. Pandit, is there no way for us then? Master, yes, there is the path of discrimination. In a song occurs the line, Ask her son discrimination about the truth. The way lies through discrimination, renunciation, and passionate yearning for God. Unless a man practices discrimination, he cannot utter the right words. One time, after expounding religion at great length, Pandit Samadhyai said, God is dry. He reminded me of the man who once said, my uncle's cowshed is full of horses. Now, does anyone keep horses in a cowshed? With a smile, you have become like a chana bada fried in butter. Now it will be good for you and for others as well if you are soaked in syrup a few days, just a few days. Pandit smiling, the sweet meat is over fried, it has become charred. Master with a laugh, no, no, it is brown as a cockroach, just the right color. Hajra, the sweet meat is well cooked. It has become spongy. Now it will soak up the syrup nicely. Master, you see, there is no need to read too much of the scriptures. If you read too much, you will be inclined to reason and argue. Nangata used to reach me thus, teach me thus. What you get by repeating the word Gita 10 times is the essence of the book. In other words, if you repeat Gita 10 times, it is reversed into Tagi, which indicates renunciation. Yes, the way to realize God is through discrimination, renunciation, and yearning for Him. What kind of yearning? One should yearn for God as the cow, with yearning heart runs after its calf. Pandit, the same thing is said to the Vedas. O God, we call on Thee as the cow lows for the calf. Master, add your tears to your yearning, and if you can, renounce everything through discrimination and dispassion, then you will be able to see God. That yearning brings about God intoxication. Whether you follow the path of knowledge or the path of devotion, the sage Durvasa was mad with the knowledge of God. There is a great deal of difference between the knowledge of a householder and that of an all renouncing sannyasi. The householder's knowledge is like the light of a lamp, which illumines only the inside of a room. He cannot see anything with the help of such knowledge except his own body and his immediate family. But the knowledge of the all renouncing monk is like the light of the sun. Through that light, he can see both inside and outside the room. Chaitanya Deva's knowledge had the brilliance of the sun, the sun of knowledge. Further, he radiated the soothing light of the moon of devotion. He was endowed with both the knowledge of Brahma and ecstatic love of God. To the Pandit, one can attain spiritual consciousness through both affirmation and negation. There is the positive path of love and devotion, and there is the negative path of knowledge and discrimination. You are preaching the path of knowledge, but that creates a very difficult situation. There the Guru and the disciple do not see each other. Sukadeva went to Janaka for instruction about the knowledge of Brahma. Janaka said to him, "You must pay me the Guru's fee beforehand. When you attain the knowledge of Brahma, you won't pay me the fee because the knower of Brahma sees no difference between the Guru and the disciple." Different stages of divine love. Both negation and affirmation are ways to realize one and the same goal. Infinite are the opinions and infinite are the ways. But you must remember one thing. The injunction is that the path of devotion described by Narada is best suited to the Kali Yuga. According to this path, first come bhakti, then bhava. When bhakti is mature, higher than bhava are Mahabhava and Prema. An ordinary mortal does not attain Mahabhava and Prema. He who has achieved these has realized the goal, that is to say, has attained God. Pandit. In expounding religion, one has to use a great many words, Master. While preaching, eliminate the head and tail, that is to say, emphasize only the essentials. The Pandit and the Mani Malik became engaged in conversation. Mani was a member of the Brahmos. The Pandit argued vehemently about the good and bad sides of the Samaj. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the small couch and looked on, smiling. Presently he remarked, "This is the tamasic aspect of sattva, the attitude of a hero. This is necessary. One should not hold one's tongue at the sight of injustice and untruth. Suppose a bad woman wants to drag you from the path of righteousness. You must then assume the heroic attitude and say, 'What you watch, what you wish. You dare injure my spiritual life? I shall cut your body in two right now.'" With a smile, Sri Ramakrishna said to the Pandit, Mani Malik was Mani Malik has been following the tenets of the Brahmo Samaj a long time. You cannot convert him to your views. Is it an easy thing to destroy old tendencies? Once there lived a very pious Hindu who always worshipped the Divine Mother and chanted her name. When the Muslims conquered the country, they forced him to embrace Islam. They said to him, "You are now a Muslim, say Allah. From now on, you must repeat only the name of Allah." With great difficulty, he repeated the word Allah, but even now and then blurted out Jagdamba. At that, the Muslims were about to beat him. Thereupon he said to them, "I beseech you, please do not kill me. I have been trying my utmost to repeat the name of Allah, but our Jagdamma has filled me up to the throat. She pushes out your Allah." All laugh. Different paths to shoot different taste. To the Pandit, please don't say anything to Mani Malik. You must know that there are different tastes, there are also different powers of digestion. God has made different religions and creeds to suit different aspirants. By no means all are fit for the knowledge of Brahma. Therefore, the worship of God with form has been provided. The mother brings home a fish for her children. She curries part of the fish, part she fries, and with another part she makes pilau. By no means all can digest the pilau, so she makes fish soup for those who have weak stomachs. Further, some want pickled or fried fish. There are different temperaments. There are differences in the capacity to comprehend. All sat in silence. Sri Ramakrishna said to the Pandit, Go and visit the temples and take a stroll in the garden. It was about 5:30 in the afternoon. The Pandit left the room with his friends and several of the devotees. After a while, the master went with M towards the bathing ghat on the Ganges. He said to M, Baburam now says, what shall I gain by study? On the bank of the river, he met the Pandit and said to him, are not you going to the Kali temple? The Pandit said, yes, sir, let us go together. With a smiling face, Sri Ramakrishna proceeded to the temple through the courtyard. He said to the Pandit, listen to a song. He sang, is Kali my mother really black? The naked one of blackest hue lights the lotus of the heart. As he was going through the courtyard, he quoted to the Pandit from a song, lightning, lighting the lamp of knowledge in the chamber of your heart. Behold the face of the mother, Brahma's embodiment. They came to the temple. Sri Ramakrishna saluted the Divine Mother, touching the ground with his forehead. Red hibiscus flowers and vilva leaves adorned the mother's feet. Her three eyes radiated love for her devotees. Two of her hands were raised it as if to give them bones and reassurance. The other two hands held symbols of death. She was clothed in a sari of Banaras silk and was decked with ornaments. Image of Kali. Referring to the image, one of the party remarked, I heard it was made by the sculptor Nabin. The master answered, yes, I know, but to me she is the embodiment of spirit. As Sri Ramakrishna was coming back to his room with the devotees, he said to Baburam, come with us, and also joined them. It was dusk. The master was sitting on the semicircular porch west of his room. Baburam and M sat near him. He was in a mood of partial ecstasy. Rakhal was not then living with Sri Ramakrishna, and therefore the master was having difficulties about his personal service. Several devotees lived with him, but he could not bear the touch of everyone during his spiritual moods. He hinted to Baburam, do stay with me, it will be very nice. In this mood I cannot allow others to touch me. The Pandit entered the master's room after visiting the temple. The master said to him from the porch, take some refreshments. The Pandit said that he had not yet performed his evening devotions. At once Sri Ramakrishna stood up and sang in an exalted mood, why should I go to Ganga or Gaya, to Kanchi or Parbhas, so long as I can breathe my last with Kali's name upon my lips? What need of rituals has a man? What need of devotions any more? If he repeats the mother's name and the holy hours. Intoxicated with ecstatic love, the master said, how long should one perform devotions? So long as one's mind does not merge in God while repeating Om. Pandit, then let me eat the refreshments. I shall perform the devotion later on. Master, no, I don't want to obstruct the current of your life. It is not good to renounce anything before the proper time arrives. When the fruit ripens, the flower drops off itself. One should not forcibly tear off the green branch of a coconut tree that injures the tree. Surendra was about to leave. He invited his friends into his carriage. The master, still in an ecstatic mood, said, don't take more people than your horse can draw. Surendra took leave of Sri Ramakrishna. The Pandit left the room to perform his worship. M and Baburam saluted the master. They were about to leave for Calcutta. Sri Ramakrishna was still in an ecstatic mood. Master to M. I cannot utter a word now. Stay a few minutes. M again took his seat and waited for the master's command. Sri Ramakrishna motioned to Baburam to take a seat and asked him to fan him a little. M also took part in rendering the personal service to the master. Master to M tenderly, why don't you come here so frequently now? M, not for any special reason. I have been rather busy at home. Master, yesterday I came to know Babu Ram's inner nature. That's why I have been trying to that's why I have been trying so hard to persuade him to live with me. The mother bird hatches the egg in proper time. Boys like Baburam are pure in heart. They have not yet fallen into the clutches of woman and gold. Is not that so? And it is true, sir. They are still stainless, master. They are like a new pot. Milk kept in it will not turn sour. Yes, sir, master. I need Baburam here. I pass through certain spiritual states when I need someone like him. He says he must not all at once live with me permanently, for it will create difficulties. His relatives will make trouble. I am asking him to come here Saturdays and Sundays. Master's advice to householders. The Pandit entered the room with his friends. He had finished his devotions and was ready to eat the refreshments. One of his companions asked the master, shall we succeed in spiritual life? Please tell us what our way is. Master, you all have the yearning for liberation. If an aspirant has yearning, that is enough for him to realize God. Don't eat any food of the Shraddha ceremony. Live in the world like an unchaste woman. She performs her household duties with great attention, but her mind dwells day and night on her paramour. Perform your duties in the world, but keep your mind always fixed on God. The Pandit finished eating his refreshments. Master to the Pandit, you have read the Gita, no doubt. It says that there is a special power of God in the man who is honored and respected by all. The Pandit quoted the verse from the Gita. Master, you surely possess divine power. Pandit, shall I labor with perseverance to finish the task that I have accepted? Sri Ramakrishna forced himself as it were to say, yes. He soon changed the conversation. Master, one cannot but admit the manifestation of power. Vidyasagar once asked me, has God given more power to some than to others? I said to him, certainly. Otherwise, how can one man kill 100? If there is no special manifestation of power, then why is Queen Victoria so much honored and respected? Do not don't you admit it? He agreed with me. The Pandit and his friends saluted the master and were about to take their leave. Sri Ramakrishna said to the Pandit, come again. One hemp smoker rejoices in the company of another hemp smoker. They even embrace each other, but they hide at the sight of people not of their own kind. A cow licks the body of her calf, but she threatens a strange cow with her horns. All laugh. The Pandit left the room with a smile. The master said, he has become diluted even in one day. Did you notice how modest he was? And he accepted everything I said. Moonlight flooded the semicircular porch. Sri Ramakrishna was still seated there. M was about to leave. Master tenderly, must you go now? Yes, sir. Let me say goodbye. Master, I have been thinking of visiting the houses of the devotees. I want to visit yours also. What do you say? That will be very fine. Thursday, July 3, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in Balram Bose's house in Calcutta. It was the day of the return car festival. The Lord of the universe was worshipped in Balram's house as Jagannath. There was a small car in the house for use during the car festival. Balram's father. Balram's father was a pious Vaishnava who devoted most of his time to prayer and meditation in his garden house at Vrindavan. He also studied devotional books and enjoyed the company of devotees. Balram had brought his father to Calcutta to meet the master. Sri Ramakrishna was in a very happy mood. Seated near him were Balram's father, Manamohan, and several young devotees. He was conversing with them. Dogmatism in religion. Master to Balram's father and the others. The Bhaktmala is one of the Vaishnava books. It is a fine book. It describes the lives of the various Vaishnava devotees, but it is one-sided. At one place, the author found peace of mind only after compelling Bhagavati, the Divine Mother, to take her initiation according to the Vaishnava discipline. Once I spoke highly of Vaishnavacharan to Mathur and persuaded him to invite Vaishnavacharan to his house. Mathur welcomed him with great courtesy. He fed his guest from silver plates. Then do you know what happened? Vaishnava said in front of Mathur, you will achieve nothing whatsoever in spiritual life unless you accept Krishna as your ideal. Mathur was a follower of the Shakta cult and a worshipper of the Divine Mother. At once his face became crimson. I nudged Vaishnavacharan. I understand that the Bhagavata also contains some statements like that. I hear that it is said that they are trying to cross the ocean of the world without accepting Krishna as the ideal deity is like trying to cross a great sea by holding the tail of a dog. Each sect magnifies its own view. The Shaktas to try to belittle the Vaishnavas. The Vaishnavas say that Krishna alone is the helmsman to take one across the ocean of the world. The Shaktas retort, oh yes, we agree to that. Our Divine Mother is the Empress of the universe. Why should she bother about a ferry boat? Therefore, she has engaged that fellow Krishna for the purpose of love. Besides, how when people are about their own sex, there are weavers in the village near Kamarpukar. Many of them are Vaishnavas and like to talk big. They say, which Vishnu does he worship? The the preserver, oh, we won't touch him. Or which Shiva are you talking about? We accept the Atma Shiva. Or again, please explain to us which Hari you worship. They spin their yarn and indulge in talk like that. Rati's mother, Rani Katyani's favorite confidant, is a follower of Vaishnavacharan. She is a bigoted Vaishnava. She used to visit me very frequently, and none could outdo her in devotion. One day she noticed me eating the prasad from the Kali temple. Since then I have not seen even her shadow. Master's harmony of religions. He is indeed a real man who has harmonized everything. Most people are one sided, but I find that all opinions point to the one, all views, the Shakta, the Vaishnavas, the Vedanta have that one for their center. He who is formless is again endowed with form. It is he who appears in different forms. The attributeless Brahma is my father. God with attributes is my mother. Whom I shall blame? Whom shall I praise? The two pans of the scales are equally heavy. He who is described in the Vedas is also described in the Tantras and the Puranas. All of them speak about the one Satchitananda. The Nitya and the Leela are the two aspects of the one reality. It is described in the Vedas as Om Satchitananda Brahma, in the Tantras as Om Satchitananda Shiva, the ever pure Shiva, and in the Puranas as Om Satchitananda Krishna. All the scriptures, the Vedas, the Puranas, and the Tantras speak only of one Satchitananda. It is stated in the Vaishnava scriptures that it is Krishna himself who has become Kali. Sri Ramakrishna went to the porch for a few minutes and then returned. As he was going out, Vaishnava Vishwahar's daughter, 6 or 7 years old, saluted him. On returning to the room, the master began talking to the little girl and her companions who were of the same age. The child to the master, I saluted you and you did not even notice it. Master smiling, did you? I really did not notice. Child, then wait, I want to salute you again. The other put too. Sri Ramakrishna laughed and sat down. He returned the salute and bowed to the child, touching the ground with his forehead. He asked her to sing. The child said, I swear I don't sing. When the master pressed her again, she said, should you press me? When I said, I swear, the master was very happy with the children and sang light and frivolous songs to entertain them. He said, come, let me braid your hair, lest your husband should scold you when he beholds you. The children and the devotees laughed. Childlike nature of a Paramahamsa, master to the devotees. The Paramahamsa is like a 5-year-old child. He sees everything filled with consciousness. At one time I was staying at Kamarpukur when Shivram was 4 or 5 years old. One day he was trying to catch grasshoppers near the pond. The leaves were moving. To stop their rustling, he said to the leaves, hush, hush, I want to catch a grasshopper. Another day it was stormy. It rained hard. Shivram was with me inside the house. There, there were flashes of lightning. He wanted to open the door and go out. I scolded him and stopped him, but still he peeped out now and then. When he saw the lightning, he exclaimed, there until they are striking matches again. The Paramahamsa is like a child. He cannot distinguish between a stranger and a relative. He is not particular about worldly relationships. One day Shivram said to me, Uncle, are you my father's brother or his brother-in-law? The Paramahamsa is like a child. He does not keep any track of his whereabouts. He sees everything as Brahma. He is indifferent to his own movements. Shivram went to Hriday's house to see the Durga Puja. He slipped out of the house and wandered away. A passerby saw the child, who was then only 4 years old, and asked, where do you come from? He could not say much. He only said the word hut. He was speaking of the big hut in which the image of the Divine Mother was being worshipped. The stranger asked him further, whom are you living with? He only said the word brother. Other traits of Paramahamsa. Sometimes the Paramahamsa behaves like a madman. When I experienced that divine madness, I used to worship my own sexual organ as the Shiva Pallus. But I can't do that now. A few days after the dedication of the temple at Dakshineshwar, a madman came there who was really a sage endowed with the knowledge of Brahma. He had a bamboo twig in one hand and a potted mango plant in the other, and was wearing torn shoes. He did not follow any social conventions. After bathing in the Ganges, he did not perform any religious rites. He ate something that he carried in a corner of his wearing cloth. Then he entered the Kali temple and chanted hymns to the deity. The temple trembled. Haldari was then in the shrine. The madman was not allowed to eat at the guest house, but he paid no attention to this slight. He searched for food in the rubbish heap where the dogs were eating crumbs from the discarded leaf plates. Now and then he pushed the dogs aside to get his crumbs. The dogs did not mind either. Haldari followed him and asked, "Who are you? Are you a Purnajani?" The madman whispered, Yes, I am a Purnajani." My heart began to palpitate as Haldari told me about it. I clung to Hriday. I said to the Divine Mother, "Mother, shall I too have to pass through such a state?" We all went to see the man. He spoke words of great wisdom to us, but behaved like a madman before others. Haldari followed him a great way when he left the garden. After passing the gate, he said to Haldari, "What else shall I say to you? When you no longer make any distinction between the water of this pool and the water of the Ganges, then you will know that you have perfect knowledge." Saying this, he walked away rapidly away. Sri Ramakrishna began to talk with M. Other devotees too were present. Master to M. "How do you feel about Shashadra?" He is very nice. Master, he is very intelligent, is not he? Yes, sir, he is very erudite. Master, according to the Gita, there is a power of God in one who is respected and honored by many. But Sasadhara has still a few things to do. What will he accomplish with mere scholarship? He needs to practice some austerity. It is necessary to practice some spiritual discipline. Gauri Pandit practiced austerity. When he chanted a hymn to the Divine Mother, the other Pandits would seem no more than earthworms. Narayana Shastri was not merely a scholar either. He practiced sadhana as well. He studied for 25 years without a break. Nana alone he studied for several years. Still he would go into ecstasy while repeating the name of Shiva. The king of Jaipur wanted to make him his court Pandit, but Narayan refused. He used to spend much time here. He had a great desire to go to Vasishtha Asrama to practice tapasya. He often spoke to me about it, but I forbade him to go there. At that he said, "Who knows when I shall die? When shall I practice sadhana? Any day I may crack." After much insistence on his part, I let him go. Some say that he is dead, that he died while practicing austerity. Others say that he is still alive and that they saw him off on a railway train. Master and Keshav. Before meeting Keshav, I asked Narayan Shastri to visit him and tell him what he thought of him. Narayan retorted that Keshav was an adept in japa. He knew astrology and remarked that Keshav had been born under a good star. Then I went to visit Keshav in the garden house at Belgharia. Hriday was with me. The moment I saw Keshav, I said, "Of all the people I saw here, he alone has dropped his tail. He can now live on land as well as in water like a frog." Keshav sent 3 members of the Brahma Samaj to the temple garden at Dakshineswar to test me. Prasanna was one of them. They were commissioned to watch me day and night and to report to Keshav. They were in my room and intended to spend the night there. They constantly uttered the word Daya Maya and said to me, "Follow Keshav Babu. That will do you good." I said, "I believe in God with form." Still they went on with their exclamations of Daya Maya. Then a strange mood came over me. I said to them, get out of here." I did not allow them to spend the night in my room. So they slept on the veranda. Captain also spent the night in the temple garden the first time he visited me. Michael visited the temple garden when Narayan Shastri was living with me. Dwarika Babu, Mathur's eldest son, brought him here. The owners of the temple garden were about to get into a lawsuit with the English proprietors of the neighboring powder magazine, so they wanted Michael's advice. I met him in the big room next to the manager's office. Narayan Shastri was with me. I asked Narayan to talk to him. Michael could not talk very well in Sanskrit. He made mistakes. Then they talked in the popular dialect. Narayan Shastri asked him his reason for giving up the Hindu religion. Pointing to his stomach, Michael said it was for this. Narayan said, "What shall I say to a man who gives up his religion for his belly's sake?" Thereupon Michael asked me to say something. I said, "I do not know why, but I don't feel like saying anything. Someone seems to be pressing my tongue." Manomohan. "Mr. Chaudhary will not come," he said. "That fellow Sasadra from Faridpur will be there. I shall not go." Mr. Chaudhary had obtained his master's degree from Calcutta University. He drew a salary of 3 or 400 rupees. After the death of his first wife, he had the intense dispassion for the world, but after some time he had married again. He frequently visited the master at the temple garden. Master, how mean of him. He is vain of his scholarship. Besides, he has married a second time. He looks on the world as a mere mud puddle. To the devotees, this attachment to woman and gold makes a man small-minded. When I first saw Harmohan, he had many good traits. I longed to see him. He was then 17 or 18 years old. I used to send to him for every now and then, but he would not come. He is now living away from the family with his wife. He had been living with his uncle before. That was very good. He had no worldly troubles. Now he has a separate home and does the marketing for his wife daily. The other day he came to Dakshineshwar. I said to him, "Go away, leave this place. I don't even feel like touching you." Sri Ramakrishna went to the inner apartments to see the deity. He offered some flowers. The ladies of Balram's family were pleased to see him. The master came back to the drawing room and said, "The worldly minded practice devotions, japa, and austerity only by fits and starts. But those who know nothing else but God repeat His name with every breath. Some always repeat mentally Om Rama. Even the followers of the path of knowledge repeat Soham. I am He. There are others whose tongue are always moving, repeating the name of God. One should remember and think of God constantly." Pandit Sasadhar entered the room with 1 or 2 friends and saluted the master. Master, smiling, "We are like the bridesmaids waiting near and bed for the arrival of the groom." The Pandit laughed. The room was filled with devotees, among them Dr. Pratap and Balram's father. The master continued his talk. Master to Sasadhar. The first sign of knowledge is a peaceful nature, and the second is absence of egotism. You have both. There are other indications of a jnani. He shows intense dispassion in the presence of a sadhu. Is a lion when at work, for instance, when he lectures and is full of wit before his wife laughs. But the nature of the Vijnani is quite different, as was the case with Chaitanya Deva. He acts like a child or a madman or an inert thing or a ghoul. While in the mood of a child, he sometimes shows childlike joylessness, sometimes the frivolity of adolescence, and sometimes, while instructing others, the strength of a young man. At this point, I conclude this video. Next video number 27 will continue with chapter number 25, 3 kinds of bhakti. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.